Just waiting to see if we are live. Okay. Looks like this is us. Hopefully you can hear me. All right, beautiful. Hey, look, I've got the whiteboard. That means I'm actually going to do some serious stuff today. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. The question is, how do you create your own reality? Now, this is a pretty big question, because what I'd like to say to you is that you've been creating your reality every day that you're born, basically. And most of it's from a subconscious perspective rather than a conscious perspective. Through the work that we've done within the Empowering Mindset program, we first became aware of the mind and how I am not my mind, my mind's a part of me. And my mind can be a vehicle and can be a tool to create either calm or chaos, really, depending on my perspective. And today I want to take you through a bit of a journey. It will be a discourse, and what it will show you is that there's many ways that we can create our own realities. I want to start off with the psychological perspective of it, so you can get a bit of a understanding of what that is. And then I'm going to take you into a quantum scientific perspective that also correlates with a spiritual perspective. Because remember too, with our conversations, we're also suggesting that you are consciousness having a human experience. Okay. But let's start off with the psychological stuff, because initially we were working with the mind, and it's really important to be able to work with the mind. Just trying to play with some of these. That's okay, good. All right. So hello, whoever is out there. Thank you for joining me. Really, really interesting topic that we're going to talk about today is how do I create my own reality, or how do you create your reality? So when we've been looking at the mind, and when we become aware, and when also we become aware of this tool, wonderful tool called mindfulness, what we start to realize is that whatever I think about is my reality. Even though I'm in this room and I can say this is my physical reality, ultimately what I am experiencing is my reality. What is in this room will, in essence, trigger something within me, or something will arise within me around here. And, at the moment you can see that beautiful picture of the Buddha behind me. So, that picture was bought for me on my birthday, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, by my family. And they'd seen it, and they saw it, and they thought, wow, this is what Maurice would love, this is what Dad would love, and we want to get it for him. So whenever I look at that, it evokes a particular emotion within me. So the picture doesn't hold the emotion. It's the response that I have from the picture because of the meaning that I attribute to the picture that creates that emotion, the series of thoughts, the series of memories. Whenever I say series, Siri pops up. So it's not the actual picture that holds weight and holds the value. It's my interpretation of it, and it's the relationship that I have with it that creates that. And this is related to a concept called emptiness. And emptiness is a Buddhist concept that suggests that everything is empty of essence other than the essence that we place upon it. And for most of you, you would have sat with me and I would have explained the example of the pen. Got a really great relationship with the pen, love the pen, all that sort of stuff. I walk over and it takes my eye out, and I lose confidence. I can't drive my car anymore. I can't feel confident in talking to you, and it really pretty much stuffs up my life. Now I hate the pen. Okay, has the pen changed? No, it hasn't. My relationship with it has. And what we've been doing in the work that we've been doing together is changing our relationship with the things that we perceived as being limiting in nature. And a classic one for that was self-doubt. So self-doubt always was limiting in nature for me until I then realised that it was the indicator of growth. That I would only experience self-doubt each time that I was outside of my comfort zone, each time that I was learning something new. And so then I realised, hang on, self-doubt's letting me know that I'm leaving my comfort zone. And it was just an indicator. So I went, wow, okay. So it wasn't about trying to get rid of self-doubt. It was coming to the acknowledgement of what it represented. So I didn't change self-doubt. I didn't push it away. But what I did do was I changed my relationship with it. And now I see it as having value. So the essence that I place upon it is the value. So notice how my reality now is shifting because of the relationship that I have with something, and also the meaning that I give to it. Okay? So from a psychological perspective, when I talk about the concept of how do you create your own reality, there's a couple of ways that we can look at it. So here's a couple of phrases. Remember Henry Ford said, whether you believe you're right or you're wrong, you're always going to be right. So we will constantly search for evidence in our reality to suggest that we are right and correct. Now, what that means, though, is that, well, what are we right and correct about? And ultimately, what drives that attention is what you believe about self and others, but primarily what you believe about yourself. And what I had shared with you on the page was that quote there. Your perception of me is a reflection of you. Okay, so however you judge me, however you perceive me, is actually a reflection of you. My reaction to you is an awareness of me. Now that's a really powerful statement, because what it then allows us to do is to notice that, and Carl Jung said this really, really well, you can't see anything outside of yourself. So you cannot see anything outside of yourself. So when I judge somebody for something, I'm actually judging that part of myself because I can't see anything beyond myself. The world is holographic in nature. So what that suggests is that everywhere I go, basically I'm looking at a mirror. And the way that I'm looking at the mirror is that I'll have an interaction with somebody and then something will arise within me. Now, if I can't deal with, and say if it's discomfort, if I can't deal with that discomfort within me, I'll be able to deal with it to a certain degree, but anything above my coping mechanism, what I'll do is I'll blame. I'll blame and complain, I'll deflect and I'll project. Because the system doesn't like to sit with too much discomfort. It will then try to get rid of it. It's like a hot potato. I can't hold on to this, I need to get rid of it. And the way that I get rid of it is I'll throw it onto you. And it's your fault that I'm feeling this way. And when I judge you, then the pain shifts away because you're the one who holds the judgment. You're the one who holds the pain. But what also happens with that is that I give my power away to you. Okay? And through the work that we've done, we're empowering you. We're not disempowering you, or you're not disempowering yourself as much as you used to. Okay? So let's look at it from an NLP perspective, because if we're constantly going to find what we believe about self and others in our environment, then really we're just looking at ourselves. And then you might say, well, how do I change that? Well, first let's come to an understanding of what that is. So I'm just going to throw up a couple of numbers here. From an NLP perspective, hopefully you can see that, possibly. Okay, from an NLP perspective, there's over 2 million bits of information available to us in each and every moment. The mind or the brain can only handle 132 bits. So there's 1,999,800 168 bits of information that get deleted, distorted, and generalized. Okay, so what that's basically saying is that 132 bits of information, that becomes our reality, because reality is based upon what you place your attention on. And remember, through the work that we've done, you are not your mind, your mind's a part of you. And we naturally have a fear-based mind because the reptilian part of the brain, where all information goes through first, is seeing information as either a threat or an opportunity. Because remember, it's safety and survival. So if we're not conscious of what we're placing our attention on, we will find 132 bits of information that is based on safety and survival and will come from the fear-based mind, which is FBT, fear-based thinking. So your reality from a psychological perspective is 132 bits of information. Now, we can see that that's not the truth. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we see ourselves, because that's all we can ever see. So think about this at the moment. How do you see your world? Is your world loving and kind and compassionate and full of abundance and connection and unity to others? Or is there conflict and chaos and unpredictability and uncertainty? So see how they're, in a sense, they're worlds apart, they're poles apart. And basically what these guys are saying, the NLP guys, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, is that the 132 bits of information that you're seeking is what then creates your world, it creates your reality. There's so many people on this planet who get to choose this 132 bits of information, which then makes up their reality. If you're not consciously aware of the bits of information that you're looking at and deriving from the world or from your environment, then you'll fall prey to the fear-based mind, which is scarcity and lack of I'm not enough. Okay. When I'm not enough, then I usually turn into a people pleaser. I'll compromise my values. I'll lose a sense of self, because then I'll say, well, what is it that you want me to do? And ultimately then I start to resent other people because I get the shits because I never get to do what I want. I never get to speak up about what I want. But that resentment that I have for others is more so a reflection of the resentment that I have for myself. Once again, bring it back to you, bring it back to you. So your reality is what you place your attention on. So from a psychological perspective, how do I create my own reality? Well, when I become conscious of what I place my attention on, I have a greater probability and a greater authority over what my reality actually is. Really, really powerful concept. Now, that attention comes down to a focus, and the focus comes down to a belief about self and others. For some time I thought others were really, really important, and they are. But what I've found more so is that this belief about self is it is the most important thing to be aware of. If you're going to be aware of any belief system, I need to be aware of, well, what is it that I believe about myself? Am I worthy? Am I enough? And for most of you who've done the program, or all of you who've done the program, you may remember The Big Leap, which was the audio book that I got you to listen to. And so we had one script there, one main script. Ultimately, I don't believe I deserve success in a particular part of my life. And there's so many parts of our lives that we don't believe we deserve success. And then we had 4 subscripts. And those subscripts were I'm not enough, I'm a burden, don't shine too bright, and loyalty to herd. Really, really powerful subscripts to those, because I will use them as my upper limits. Now, if I run any of those 4 in any particular part of my life, they will be driven, well, that's what you believe. I will then look to focus my attention on those scripts and I will ultimately find it because it then becomes part of my 132 bits of reality. Okay. So this really isn't that hard to understand from a psychological perspective. And for some of you, you'll go, okay, this is as deep as I want to go, Maurice, in relation to um, creating my own reality. All I need to then do is just tweak my attention. I can tweak my attention by becoming aware of what I believe about self and others. Now, this can take a day, this can take a moment, but it can take a lifetime to actually drill down to your core beliefs about self. And it can take a lot of inner work. A quicker way, and depending on which way you want to go here, is that the best way to work out what you believe about self and others is to look at your world. Look at the interactions that you do have. Notice that there'll be harmony and there'll be calm and there'll be love and compassion. You go, oh, that's cool. I must be inviting that into my days because that is reflective of who I am and my belief about myself and also others. But if there's any conflict, if there's any chaos, if there's any contrast, if there's any psychological suffering, that will also be an indicator that there's some shadow parts of me that need to be healed, or I need to pay attention to. Okay? So I call these moments contrasting moments. So when you become aware of your contrasting moments, what they do is they allow you to see what you don't want. And this was another thing that I shared with you, which comes from Abraham Hicks. We'll talk about Abraham pretty soon. The realization that something is not as you want it to be is an important first step. Okay? But once you have identified that, the faster you're able to turn your attention into the direction of the solution, the better, because a continuing exploration of the problem will prevent you from finding the solution. So basically, you don't, okay, here's contrast. I've noticed what I don't want. Don't continue to beat the drum of what you don't want. Then start to beat the drum of what you do want. That's the solution. The problem is a different vibrational frequency than the solution. That makes sense. And all thoughts or vibrations are affected by or managed by the law of attraction. Now, this is something called the law of resonance, if you want to look at it from a physics perspective. So what I'm saying there is that, and when I bring it back to this concept here of psychological suffering and coming to an understanding of your belief system, is that when I see something in my life that rubs against my values that I don't like, what it's basically showing you is contrast, okay? So when I see stuff that I guess gets my goat, that triggers some stuff within me, even when I have, I guess negative belief about self or limiting beliefs or lack of self-worth, the question that I ask myself is, what would I need to believe for me to see something different? Now, see, straight away, I've noticed what I don't want. I've noticed what is triggering me. I've noticed the contrast because I'm using attention, I'm using mindfulness. And rather than judging myself for it, I go, well, it's really interesting. Okay, what would I need to believe for me to see something different? And so straight away, I'm shifting it from the problem to the solution. And once again, as Abraham says, the frequency of the solution has a different frequency to the problem. And I'm not beating the drum of the problem anymore. Now I'm starting to beat the drum of the solution. So what would I need to believe for me to see something different? Well, I'd need to believe that I am worthy. And I'd need to believe that I am loved, that I am connected, that I am worthy of experiencing and receiving love, abundance, compassion. What I can then do is, because notice, I'm now creating my belief system about self. This is what I would need to believe. I then start to use that as the focus. All of a sudden, my attention is placed upon it, and I'll start to look for 132 bits of information. Or I might start to look for 10 or 20 or 30 bits of information that is reflective of what would I need to believe for me to see something different. Because ultimately, I'll be able to find it. Because there's over 2 million bits of information. Blind Freddy could trip over something like that and go, oh, there's some evidence of it. And this is also why through the program, and hopefully you've continued to do this throughout your lives, is that I focus on gratitude and appreciation, because that's part of your 132 bits of information. Okay? That then becomes your reality because that's what you place your attention on. And it further consolidates that I can be grateful for myself. I can be grateful for the world. There is a point of gratitude within me. Okay? Now, the tricky thing is try not to get caught up in others, because when I get caught up in others, then I'm moving away from myself. I really need to become aware of this process within me. Okay? And because I am the most important component out of this. Pardon me for 1 second. Got an air purifier that's just going off. It's going off tap at the moment. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this out because I want to take you to another space now. So from a psychological perspective, we can see that out of all of this information that we could be finding and experiencing, we're only seeing a part of reality. Like I said before, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we see ourselves. So it's not a true indication of what actually exists within the world. What it's more so saying is that this is what I think about myself, and what I think about myself, I will find evidence to suggest that what I think about myself is true. Now, that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because I'm always going to find what I'm looking for. So if I'm always going to find what I'm looking for, then why would I continue to invite a belief system that doesn't serve me? Why do I do that? That would suggest that there's value in continuing to believe that. And that would also then suggest that, well, I don't want to let that go, because if I let that go, I'll let go of the value. And why would there be value in something that doesn't serve you? Because ultimately, I don't believe I deserve having success in a particular part of my life. So, that book, the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, I always go back to it because it's beautiful in the way that is then suggested. Okay. Mindful of the time. So I want to take you to the area, and this might go a little bit over time, but hey, it's recorded, and I understand if you have to leave and stuff like that. So, but this is really important from a quantum perspective. And I've got another video out around our consciousness having a human experience. That when we break you down to an atomic level, that there is there's the nucleus of the atom, proton, and then around it is these electrons that move around. What they found is that all this stuff in here is space. It's 99.9 to the 12th percent space, and the matter itself is only 0.0 to the 12th. I think it's 4%. That's 6 matter. So what it suggests is that you're actually made of more space than you are of matter. Now, the question is that how come I don't just fall through myself, Maurice? Well, because the space, it's not empty. The space actually holds a field, and the space has its own gravity. So when I hit against something, it's the vacuum in the space of the molecules that make up this whiteboard that are pushing against, and that's where I feel the force against it. And same with us, with our skin and how we work, okay? So everything in the universe is made up of this, and the most the smallest particle is a quark, but basically they're coming down to the smallest particle is a proton, and a proton is existing in every part of the universe. So that's one thing that unifies the universe. That's what they call string theory or unified theory. What it also suggests, though, is that this space that inhabits us is what we call consciousness. And consciousness has a charge, it has a vacuum, and it has a gravity to it. when I've spoken about this in the past, that there's not one part of you that you can identify from a physical perspective that you can say, that's who I am. So when I say Maurice, well, I'm not my hand, I'm not the skin cells on my hand, I'm not my heart, I'm not muscle cells, I'm not my blood, because blood cells only last for 90 days. Skin cells only last for 28 days. Brain synapses will last up to 10 years. The only one thing that is existent within you from the time that you're born to the time that you die is the retina of your eye. We don't class ourselves as the retina of our eye, but what we are is this space that is with us from the beginning to the end and will continue through this physical body. Now, for some of you, this spiritual concept of eternity mixed in with the science and the quantum might be a bit too much of a quantum leap, and that's fair enough. And you might have switched off after I left the psychological stuff. And even if you just want to look at what I've spoken about today from the psychological perspective, then that's fine as well. This stuff here, it just gives you a deeper understanding, because what we're trying to move you to is an ontological perspective. An ontological perspective is greater than this life. It's the bird's eye view. It's looking at where we're at. Okay, and what we find here is that everything is energy. You are a form of energy. Now, because I and life are one, because I am made of the same stuff that the universe is made of, I can also then start to move into a psycho-spiritual perspective of, well, if life is this greater part of me, so we look at life as a unlocalized form of consciousness, and we look at ourselves as a localized form of consciousness. I am consciousness that inhabits this body. When this body is finished, hopefully I get some good use out of it, I will then, in a sense, move back to what I was, or what I am currently now, in the non-physical. And soul is eternal, spirit is eternal, prana, chi, whatever you want to identify as. It is, I am a part of life, life is a part of me, I and life are one, because we're made of the same molecular structure. So life is giving to me what I am. All right, so this is through the law of attraction, the law of resonance, quantum physics, and a thing called the unified field. All right, now, I'm not going to take you into all of that stuff, but if you want to research it, you will find what I'm saying is congruent to it. The law of resonance from a physics perspective, and a beautiful way to explain that is that if I had two guitars in this room and I played a chord on one guitar, what it would do with the other guitar is the chord on that other guitar would then start to vibrate at the same resonance that I am playing my guitar. So, and you can find this with piano. So if I had a guitar and a piano, it would happen the same way. So what they're saying is that, we are connected through sound, but we're also connected through space, through consciousness. That's why we say that really resonates with me. Those people, they're on the same wavelength that I am on. Okay, so we're connecting with them through their words, but also through the vibrationary rate. Okay, this is the same way that life works with us, and we talk about the law of attraction, and we talk about the law of resonance, and we talk about the unified field, that life is relating to you in the way that you relate to yourself. So you are a particular frequency, because if you're energy, you run at a particular hertz. The earth has its own hertz, and if we look at the Schumann resonance, it will actually tell us what the hertz of earth is, what's the vibration rate of earth. When we look at us as human beings, and from a spiritual, psychological, and a body perspective, we talk about thoughts and emotions, because remember, we've got that cascade where when I have a thought and it's activated enough times, it then creates an emotion. And we know this by this concept, and I'll get you to do it now, is that try to feel angry without attaching a thought to it, without being angry about something. What you're probably realizes that you can't do that. Try to feel the emotion of guilt, okay, without having something to be guilty about, without having a thought to attach it to. So what we're finding here is that thoughts activate, and a group of thoughts will activate particular emotions. I watched a beautiful movie on Netflix yesterday, Brene Brown, who is a social worker who researches and studies shame and vulnerability. If you've got the opportunity, some of you may have seen it. If you're going to sit down for an afternoon, watch something, it goes for about an hour and a half. It's a bit better than apocalyptic zombies or anything like that. So check it out. But when we talk about shame and guilt and vulnerability, and embarrassment, they're coming from thoughts. So every emotion that you feel will be derived from a series of thoughts. Thoughts have a frequency, so they have a hertz. Emotions have a hertz as well. The frequency that comes from emotions has more intensity than there is from thoughts. So emotions are really, really important, and this is where we get to work with that process of equanimity, trying to come to an understanding that every emotion has value, rather than trying to push particular emotions away and trying to pull particular emotions towards us, because that's when we'll ultimately get caught up in suffering, because it's a tic-tac-toe game and you're never going to win on that one. Whereas when I start to see the full range of emotion as having value, then I'm allowing myself to move closer to them and see them for what they are rather than what they appear to be. Okay. So thoughts have hertz, emotions have hertz as well. Now, I'm going to share a couple of pics with you. Maybe if I can find them here. There's a Hawkins scale of emotional frequency, and I'll briefly just put it up there for you. Okay, and I'll share that with you. And there's also another one there which talks about different types of archetypes and the frequencies and the emotions that are related to it. So when we look at this Hawkins frequency, the frequency of shame and guilt is 20, 30 hertz, apathy 50, grief is 75. When we look at peace, joy and love, we're looking at 500, 540, peace is 600 hertz. Now notice, there's a big difference between 20 hertz and 600 hertz. So you've got this 20 down here all the way up to 600. And this is the hertz. But these are the emotional scales. Now, we know that each emotion feels completely different to another, or it has a different vibrationary rate. Some feel really heavy, some feel light. Some make us want to connect with others, some make us want to move away from others, okay, and isolate and things like that. So we know that there's a difference between it. Remember what I said before, that if I'm feeling low, I can then let myself know, well, this is something that I don't want to necessarily invite into my days because now I'm consciously aware of it. I can see the value in it because I look at it from the eyes of equanimity, and then I can ask myself, what would I like to feel? So see how I can shift up and down the scale by becoming aware of it, all right? And I'm not avoiding it, I'm not denying it, I'm not ignoring it. What I'm actually doing is I'm noticing and going, wow, this is interesting. I wonder what that's related to. Where were the thoughts that came from? Okay, can I see value in this? Remember that grateful for discomfort. Can I see value in this? How is this a gift? Where is the opportunity in it? So naturally, I'm shifting from a lower frequency to a higher frequency. Now, you can do that when you become aware of it. Really, really powerful. Now, see how now here, I'm actually creating my own reality through my awareness of my emotions. Just by still cognitively being aware of my emotions and shifting up and down the scale, really at will. And it only takes a couple of seconds. I remember when I went to, my mum had been wandering a bit lately, and we went to the nursing home and we went down that process, and I went into the nursing home and I asked them about how much it was going to cost and what all the situation was there. For 15 to 20 minutes, I was in a state of hopelessness. There was a sense of injustice. I was angry. I felt guilty, and I just wanted to rant. Okay. Now I noticed how I was feeling, and then I started to realise recognize what those emotions were related to in relation to my thoughts. And I thought, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel disempowered. If I don't want to feel disempowered, well, how do I want to feel? Well, the opposite. I want to feel empowered. And how do I feel empowered? Well, I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm not going to listen to the government that says this is one pathway you can go down and believe that is truth. I'm like, no, that's not the pathway. What we're going to do is we're going to create a level of, we're going to create an abundance of wealth in so many areas that we'll be able to look after my mother and keep her at home and give her everything that she needs, as well as feed my family, feed other families, and still continue to work upon this journey of creating and uplifting the consciousness of this planet. See the hurts that's related to that? Okay? I was able to become aware of it in that moment. I didn't sort of deny it or suppress it. I went, oh, this is interesting. I don't want to be here. So there's choice. I didn't have to be there. I got to move. And by moving, I then moved up the hertz. I moved up the emotional scale. Okay, now, that's another way of looking at how I create my own reality through my thoughts and my emotions and what I'm actually feeling. Now, remember too that this stuff here, it will also reflect in your 132 bits of information, which then becomes your reality. Because now I will start to look for information in my environment that is reflective of these emotions. And because I'll always find what I believe about myself and what I believe about others, more so what I believe about myself, I'm actually then going to find a reality. Because remember, I've got 2 million bits of information, 2 million bits of information that I can choose to find 132. All right? So still working on the psychological, so still working on the emotional, all right? But now I've introduced this concept of you are energy, you are consciousness, and we are actually a frequency. Now, the beautiful thing here is that life can only give to you that which you already are. Now, I'll say that again. Life can only give to you that which you already are. Now, this is moving along with the quantum field. This is also moving along with the law of attraction. And in a sense, if we want to look at the universe, God, whatever it is that you want to, that you feel comfortable in recognizing and resonating with, then I then start to go, okay, well, if life is always listening to me and life is neutral in nature, because life doesn't sit wherever it sits and go, geez, he's done a really great job. He deserves something. Let's give this to him. We need to cut this guy a break. Let's do something good for him. Or, oh, geez, a bad person. Let's punish him. It doesn't work like that. Life is, in a sense, as we wake up, it wakes up and goes, right, Maurice, what can we do for you today? And what it's listening to is your frequency, because it can only give to you that which you already are. So what is your frequency? And this is the question that we ask. What is your frequency? This is where we then start to move into the concept some of you would be aware of when you're working with me, called segment intending. So segment intending is representative of, segment is the time frame, and the intending is the intentions of the emotional state that I want to invite into my time frame. And initially we looked at it from a day's perspective. So the question is that what is it that you want to, how do you want to feel today? That's a really good question. Not is what do you want, what is it that you want to manifest? It's more so what you want to feel. And the reason why we go this way rather than going, oh, what do you want to manifest? Oh, I want to manifest a brand new car. Okay, cool. How would that make you feel? Because ultimately everything that you've ever wanted in life comes down to a feeling. If it's a loving partner, yes, I want the perfect man or I want the perfect woman, whatever it is. You go, yeah, but how does that feel? How do you know that you'll have the perfect person? Well, I want somebody who's compassionate. I want somebody that I can sit down and talk with. I want somebody that I can be intimate with. Okay, right. How does that make you feel? Oh, it's a sense of connection. I feel loved. I am loved. It's a sense of union. It's a deeper connection than just connection. A sense of safety. So now we're starting to drill down to the emotional frequency. Okay. So when we then look at it, we go, okay, well, I want to feel the emotional state of, well, so when I came up with these for myself, what we normally do is we think of three segment intending, so three emotional states. And the first three that I thought up for me when I first started this was, what did I want? I wanted ease, I wanted harmony, and I know that this may not be an emotional state, but it does create an emotional state. It was time to spare, because I was always saying, oh, I'm so busy, I'm flat out, it's really been hectic. Notice language. Language is really, really important. So ease, harmony, and time to spare. And then I thought, well, what does ease feel like? And there's that sense of ease. You don't have to try, there's no efforting, it's just flowing. Flowing would be another word. Okay. Harmony, I wanted to have harmonious interactions internally and externally. And time to spare, obviously I wanted to have time to spare because then I could then read a book, listen to an audio book, listen to a podcast, watch something that I wanted to do, go and spend time with somebody, go and sit in the garden, go and do some gardening, whatever it was, go do some exercise, ride my bike. Time to spare, because with the time to spare, what I then noticed was that I felt inspired rather than obliged. So I then started to do these segment intendings. Now, I practiced these for 3 weeks, and I noticed that it probably took me 4 days before I could then start to notice and experience what these things were. And so what segment intending does is it's called your prepaving your path. But what we're actually doing is we're setting our intentions in the morning, because remember, life can only bring to you, give to you that which you already are. Okay? My mum's going to probably pay us a visit. I don't know if she'll come up. But she'll come in. So this segment intending is going, well, life can only bring to me that which I already am. What are you? So I'm going to set my intentions, and I'm going to set my frequency to what it is that I would like to experience today. This then becomes who I am. So what I do, and this is the thing that I encourage you to do, is that each and every morning before you get out of bed, while you're still in that lucid state, you're awake, but you're lucid, is that you start to think about the emotions that you want to invite into your days. And by doing that, you then go, okay, when was the last time that I felt ease? Okay, well, it was the other day when, and for me, the thing that I noticed was I had a bit of spare, once you had some spare time, I popped into the massage place and I said, look, I know this is late notice or short notice, but do you have anything this morning? And they said, yes, Maurice, we've got something at 10 o'clock. I went, oh, cool, let's book that in there. And the receptionist said, well, that was easy, wasn't it? Oh, there's ease, flow, all right? And so that was ease. So then I could use that as a memory, as a banked set of known, to then, as a banked set of known that I could then pull upon that. So I can use that each and every time. So what I do is I remember, I visualize the last time that I felt ease, and then I feel the experience and I embody the experience. Now, as I embody the experience, I'm activating the hertz that is related to the experience, related to the emotion. And what life is doing is going, oh, what's happening for Maurice today? At the moment, he is ease. At the moment, he is harmony. And at the moment, he's representing this thing that he calls time to spare. Life can only bring to you that which you already are. And so then, what am I doing? I am strumming the guitar at that hertz. I'm playing that chord. And so life, through the law of resonance, can only give to me the chord that I am strumming. And then what it does is it places things upon your path via the path of least resistance. And this is, in essence, the art of manifesting. This is, in essence, how to create your own reality when you become consciously aware of it. And we've looked at the psychological, we've looked at the emotional, and now we're looking at the psycho-spiritual components of it, how I am connected to everything. And we know we're connected to everything because we're made up of what everything in the universe is made of. This is the fabric of reality. And the mystics have spoken about it over many, many years. Scientists are now proving it for us and giving us this information. And religions have suggested it in their own way. You get this on this program, which is just beautiful. And I'm glad to be able to share it with you and articulate it in the way that I am at this particular moment. So, I set my frequency. As I set my frequency in the morning, now the challenge here is that there's also a law of intensity, okay? That when I strum the guitar, because there's friction at either end of the string, the intensity of the sound will only last for a period of time, and then it'll then start to dissipate. And then I need to strum it again to then get that intensity up. So the key here is that I need to be mindful and I need to be aware when the intensity has started to decrease. And as it decreases, that's when I then start to strum it again. And the way that I can strum it again is that I can be aware of this and re-strum it within myself, or I can go and have a chat to somebody who's vibrating at the same resonance. And that's why we create a community like this. That's why we create a community where we can go and talk to people who are on the same wavelength. And if people aren't on the same wavelength, then don't try and have these conversations with them, because they'll be strumming a different tune. And as they strum a different tune, then they're also creating their own reality. And sometimes we might then go back to their tune, their reality, because remember, loyalty to herd don't shine too bright. Okay. Anyway, mindful of the time, we're nearly coming up to 50 minutes, so I'm going to leave you with that. I'll put some other videos up that are associated to this, so then you've got a greater understanding of it. But I just really wanted to share that with you. And for some of you, you'll take away bits of it. For some of you, you'll understand all of it. But here it is, okay? This is what you're doing each and every day. Are you consciously aware of it, or are you being unconscious of it? Because if you're unconscious of it, then you are creating by default. Right? You don't have to be. You are the creator of your own reality. You are such a powerful being. You are made of stardust. You and life are one. So connect with it in the way that you would like to experience it. Okay? Beautiful. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye. This will be recorded. Now, all of these recordings I will then put into a library playlist on YouTube as well, so you can access it that way rather than looking through, scrolling through this group. Yeah, so check them out there, check it here. But I hope that has helped you. I hope that's made sense, and I hope I've been clear in the way that I've been able to articulate this for you. Okay? There might be questions that will come from it. Okay, beautiful. Thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Ali. Yes, I never get here of talking about it. I never get tired of talking about it as well. All right. Have a beautiful day, everybody. I'll be talking to you soon, and I'll be seeing you soon. Right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye-bye.